From the heartland of America to every nation on earth, this is Jack Van Impe Presents The Truth in News and Commentary. Here now are Doctors Jack and Rexella Van Impe.
Hello and welcome to Jack Van Impe Presents. Did you notice our new opening there? We've had it for a few weeks now. We thank Jeff Thompson, our gentleman who does the graphics for us. He's doing a great job, and we really appreciate that new opening and closing. I want to get into some of the most serious headlines that I've ever given. This first one, Dr. Ben Carson says, "Get ugly with Islamic militants." And amen to that. We need to stand up. The return of jihadists threatens Europe. They're facing a real crisis over there, friends. And this one really breaks my heart. America fiddles while Christians are slaughtered. And so many nations. Jack reminded us before we went on the air. There were 300 churches in Iraq. You know how many are there now? 1. And he said, how long do you think that one's going to last? Well, before we get into these serious headlines and much more, Jack leaned over. He said, I'd like to just share a little humor. And I said, what's it going to be? Surprise. I don't know. What is that, Jack?
This is from our crusade days, things that actually happened. We were staying at the home of Lester Hotchkiss, a very wealthy man. And we used to stay at homes. And lo and behold, he and his wife had allergies, and therefore they could not have carpeting, shades, curtains, nothing. And he had built a house that was all glass, but he had a huge 7-foot fence. But I still said, Rexella, somebody could just climb up, pull himself up and look over, and here we are in the bedroom, And I said, I don't like this situation. Well, anyway, that was it. And the next day, Rexella's taking the shower, and this couldn't have been planned any better. And I said to Lester, what is this? And it was an intercom that he could reach all of the rooms speaking. And so I thought, I'm going to test it out. And here's Rexella just coming out of the shower, and I didn't know it. And I said, hey, babe. She says, Jackie, come and help me, please. There's a man in the room. Oh, man, I had to get out of that mess in a hurry. So I became very romantic. And, all I know is to quote Bible verses. But, it isn't easy to find Bible verses on love. So I gave her Song of Solomon 1:15. Thou art fair, my love. Thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes. And that took care of it.
Well, I confess, it was a beautiful, elaborate, expensive home, but I like blinds. Friends, we're going to get into something that's very serious. I said to some of our men over here, some of the most serious headlines I think I have ever read to you in your home. This first one has to do with Dr. Ben Carson. Now, he's a well-respected, well-known physician. And it was on the Chris Wallace show, and he made a statement. There he is. You see him on the screen. And this is quite astounding. Now, Chris Wallace said to him, the statement that Ben Carson made, you said recently that you thought that there might not actually be elections in 2016 because of widespread anarchy. Do you really believe that? Well, Dr. Ben Carson replied, well, I hope that's not going to be the case, but certainly there is the potential, because you have to recognize that we have a rapidly increasing national debt, a very unstable financial foundation. You have all these things going on, like the ISIS crisis, that could very rapidly change things that are going on in our nation. And unless we begin to deal with these things in a comprehensive way, in a logical way, there's no telling what could happen in just a matter of a couple of years. And this country was supposed to be a country where the government conformed to the will of the people, not the people conformed to the will of the government. Very well said, Dr. Carson. And then going on from the Detroit News, get ugly with Islamic militants. And that is an article by Dr. Ben Carson also. Now, Jack, I really respect this man from the bottom of my heart. And I believe that he cares for our nation, is praying for our nation. Do you believe what he does about our nation right now?
Oh, really, and much more. I looked up the word anarchy, and he said that's what will probably be filling the streets of the United States of America, and that's the state of lawlessness and the law of the jungle. Now, the Bible tells us that there's a horrendous time coming in the whole world. And of course, Jesus spoke about that in Luke 21:25 when he says, at the hour when I'm about to return, nations will be in distress and mass confusion. Man, it's already here. Jesus added in verse 26, men's hearts will fail them for fear, for looking after those things which shall come to pass on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, the tornadoes and everything we've been having. It's so bad that Jeremiah 30 verse 7 says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Daniel 12:1, there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. Jesus added in Matthew 24:21, for then shall be great tribulation such as never was since the beginning of the world. To this time, no, nor ever shall be again. We read in Revelation 7:14 about the great tribulation. 21 judgments take place from Revelation 6 to 18, a 7-year period called the tribulation hour. And one of the things is the world has become so corrupt that men are worshiping demons. Revelation 9:20. And the next verse says, neither repented they of their murders. That's not only Islam, that's Detroit and Chicago. We are surrounded with murders galore. And then it says, neither repented they of their pharmakia. That's the Greek word, which is drug abuses. The world is filled with it. Now it's becoming illegal, like alcohol became legal. And it goes on to say, or their fornications, their sexual escapades, they're living together without marriage license, the one-night stands, sin galore, and you'll burn in hell forever if you don't get married. Why? Because that's what God says is honorable. Hebrews 13:4, marriage is honorable in all, to the bed and defiled in marriage, but outside of marriage, whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge. Where? In a place called hell. Yeah, I'm a still old-fashioned hell preacher. And then he adds thefts. That's where they steal the money to get the sex and to get the drugs and all the rest. But I'm going to tell you, judgment's coming. Now, Rexella, everyone says Iran. They're working with us now. That's hypocritical. Do you know why they're working with us? Because they're Shiites. And they've caused all the trouble in Syria because that guy Assad is an Alawite, a breakaway from the Shiites. And the Shiites and the Sunnis have been murdering one another for 1,400 years. Tens of thousands, millions of them killed. Now they're helping because ISIS is definitely a Shiite movement along with Baghdadi. And so now America, you help us. But as soon as they get this thing cleared up, you can count on it. The Bible teaches that Iran, old Persia, Ezekiel 38, which became Iran in 1932, uses the atom bomb to destroy every human being they can on the face of the earth. And it's coming, and the Bible predicts it's coming in Psalm 97:3, Isaiah 66:15, Ezekiel 20:47, Joel chapter 2, verses 3 and 30. Then, Zephaniah 1:18, the whole land shall be devoured by fire. Malachi 4:1, the day cometh that shall burn as in heaven. Revelation 8:7, the third part of the trees was burned, all green grass was burned. And as I told you last week, Armageddon begins in that area. And that, of course, is Revelation 16:16. Where is it described? In Revelation chapter 9, verses 14 to 18. Loose the 4 demons in the great river Euphrates to slay a third part of mankind. Here it is. And by these 3 it was a third part of men killed. Fire, smoke, brimstone, atomic war. Ladies and gentlemen, and the strange part of it is where Baghdadi is now, who leads this group, a state of Iraq and Syria, is started right in the Euphrates River, which runs through Iraq, Syria, and southern Turkey. Think it over. It's about to happen.
You know, Jack, Only the Lord could write the Bible. The atomic bomb wasn't even thought about when God formed those words, about fire, smoke,
amazing,
brimstone,
sure.
and devouring the world like he expressed in the Bible. Only the Lord could write that.
Right.
My, oh my. Many of the leaders in Europe are beginning to really recognize the growth and strength of the jihadists. Take a look. Return of jihadists threatens Europe. Citizens coming back from Syria pose new terrorism threat to Europe. This is a battle between modern civilizations. Now, this is a quote by David Cameron. Of course, he's the British Prime Minister. This is a battle between modern civilizations. Can you believe it? And those who wish to drag us back to the caves, said British Prime Minister David Cameron. The creation of an extremist caliphate is not a problem miles away from home, nor is a problem that should be defined by a war 10 years ago, but is our concern here and now. Because if we do not act to stem the onslaught of this exceptionally dangerous terrorist movement, it will only grow stronger until it can target us on the streets of Britain. Well, let's go on here and struggle against Mideast jihadists. Europe puts its own on trial. Well, Belgium had enough of it. They caught some of the men coming back, and in Antwerp, Belgium, they're putting them on trial for becoming jihadists. In Europe, prosecutors take jihadists to trial. They are beginning to recognize, friends, the importance of how strong the jihadists are becoming, and that when some of their people go over to Syria to learn how to do all the terroristic acts and come back, they're going to take them to trial like in Belgium, Jack.
Oh, Rexella, the last article you just had showed 20 different nations where the people of those nations, or the Muslims living in those nations, went to Syria to learn how to be suicide bombers, and they've come back to their 20 nations. And God help the European Union nations in the very near future, as we showed you last week. But folks, I want you to get this. It just, again, went through the Quran. And, it's a religion of peace, our president said when he gave that speech the other night. Bunk! And then Carter spoke at the Muslim convention at Cobo Hall just 2 weeks ago, and he said, it's a religion of peace. And then Pope Francis got up and said, it's a religion of peace. Listen, I just found 273 verses. You listening? 109 talk about beheading people, and 164 talk about holy jihad, holy war, kill them. Does that sound like a religion of peace to you? We're headed for wars, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus said in Matthew 24, verses 6 and 7, he says that there will be wars and rumors of wars. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and that means a lot now in these tribal nations, because we've got these that can go against one another as tribal entities. He said the same thing in Mark chapter 13, verses 7 and 8. But listen to Jesus in Luke 21, verse 9. When you hear of wars and terrorism, wars and revolutionaries, be not frightened. These things must first come before what? When they're happening. Then shall they see the Son of Man, Jesus, coming in a cloud with power and great glory. These are all signs that Jesus is about to return. But why all these wars? James 4:1. He said, from whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hints of your lusts that were in your bodies? What lusts are these? Power, sex, money. These guys are kidnapping people and selling them for thousands of dollars. They're robbing the oil mines, thieves. And I'm going to make a prediction. This guy called Baghdadi, the barbarian bully, isn't going to last. Why? Because I'm hearing from the other side saying he's breaking Sharia law. He's just said to the fathers, bring all your daughters, send them in, so we can have holy jihad, sex without end. Now, you know, in Sharia law, if a girl has premarital sex, it's the job of the father, the brother, or a cousin to put her to death. This guy says, send them all. Let the boys live it up. He won't last. And hell's going to be hotter than from many people when this guy gets there.